good evening once again to our viewers. So we are recording
Hello.
tonight, 9 p.m. and we have a special guest this evening. And as we start our year, we are excited to share with you how we can accomplish our goals for 2021. And to introduce our speaker, he's a personal friend of mine. Sorry, ulitin ko. Sorry, Adriel. Meron akong kulang na sinabi. Sige.
Go
Ready?
lang.
One, two, three. All right. Good evening again. Welcome to Anchored, where we discuss about faith, family, and finance. And tonight, we are excited to share with you our discussion on goal setting this 2021. And we invited a very special guest. Actually, he's a good friend of mine. He's a graduate of economics with a minor of history back in 2016. He's also working as a consultant for 4 years now, 2 years as an IT consultant, and 2 years also to the financial services industry as a registered financial planner for Wealth Archie. He is now currently studying in Singapore at ESSEC Business Pacific. I'm sure, guys, you will learn a lot from this man. Please welcome Mr. Adriel Caumban. Hi, bro. Kamusta ka dyan sa Singapore?
Hello. Kamusta, Carlo? And thank you for inviting me to your show. And yes, I'm doing well here in Singapore and of course enjoying my studies here. And of course to the viewers, hello everyone.
Yeah, good evening, Adriel. Actually, si Adriel, na-meet ko siya one time during our discussion sa RFP. Hindi pa ako fully pledged RFP that time, and nakita ko siya sa panel, isa siya sa mga nandun sa audience namin. So, nagkakwentuhan kami and eventually naging magkaibigan kami. I'm also asking a lot of things sa kanya no, regarding sa industry
Uh,
namin. So, I'm learning a lot from this guy, and I know in this episode, you will also learn a lot from him. And Adriel, kasi ngayon, di ba, we entered
mm,
2021 and marami sa mga viewers and listeners natin nagpaplano ngayon, ano ba yung pwede kong gawin
yes.
as I start my year. And ang laging tinatanong, paano ko nga ba ma-accomplish yung mga 2021 goals ko, knowing that we are still in the pandemic. So as a financial planner, Adriel, and as you take your master's degree in Singapore, what are your tips for our listeners and viewers on how we can accomplish our 2021 goals?
Yeah, no. So bago ko sabihin no yung mga payo ko for this
Mm.
year, hindi natin made-deny no na mahirap talaga yung year 2020 para sa atin lahat. And 2021 may be a bit different, but of course, yung first 6 months of the year, we're just coming off 2020 eh. So baka may konting adjustment pa tayo for the first
Yeah.
6 months. So, of course, no, since we're talking about goal setting, lalo na 2021, and this is the new year, it's January, so isipin ng lahat, fresh start, no? And of course, I want everyone, no, especially your viewers, to have that in mind, no? Na
Mm.
fresh start ngayon, 2020, tapos na. So, ngayon, 2021, ano yung kailangan kong gawin? No? So, one of the things I did actually to start the year was actually create a cover photo for my laptop, no? Tapos linista
Wow.
ko lahat ng goals ko for this year. So, mga 6 goals ako for this year, both long-term and short-term, no? So, my first tip is always have an end in mind,
Mm.
no? Bakit? So, kapag may end in mind ka kasi, mas magiging totoo yung gusto mong gawin or yung goal mo. Kahit 2021, 2022 pa yan, 2023, etc. So, kahit short term or long term, parating kailangan may end in mind tayo. Sige, bigay ako ng isang example. Back in 2017, I already had a goal na, okay, magma-masters ako. So, yun yung end. Magma-masters ako. Pero hindi ko alam kung paano ko, i-attain yan. No? So, nag-research ako, nag-attend ako ng mga forums, ng mga seminars. Up until last year,
Mm.
nagkaroon ng chance. No? So, ano yung chance na yan? In-email ako ng isang recruiter na walang GMAT sa isang school na,
Okay.
well, yung school na pinuntahan ko ngayon. So, yun, kinuha ko yun. Tapos, I went to the process. Now, here I am in Singapore. So, having that end in mind helps because it makes it personal. It makes it relatable. And of course, it would help you act on it. And connecting this to my second tip, always dream that you can make it, but always have short-term goals, no?
Okay.
So, sa going back to the example I said earlier, ayun, nag-attend ako ng mga seminars, nag-research ako, tapos chinek ko din kung ano yung pwede sa akin. At first, inisip ko economic. So, yung mga economics na masters yung chinecheck ko, pinuntahan kong forum. But eventually, I realized baka finance. So, yun din, chinek ko din yun. So, yun yung mga short-term goals ko. Like, attend itong forum on this month, attend this seminar on this day. So, parang may progress ako or sense of progress leading me to that goal. And then
Yeah.
eventually I found that, okay, consulting talaga yung gusto ko. So, yun yung um, napuntahan ko right now. Sige. Maybe just for your viewers, no, another example. May client ako na yung goal nila was actually last year marriage.
Okay.
So, yun, plinano namin. Tapos sabi namin, sige, October, marriage. So, sinet ko yung plan, paano yung investment, paano yung like budgeting din dahil malapit na 6 months na lang. So, sabi ko, of course, money market fund, pero ito yung kailangan nating i-set aside for the both of you para at least may wedding. Kaso COVID struck, di ba? So, ayun, nag-uusap kami via messenger kung paano namin i-adjust. Tapos, at some point, sinabi namin na best na ganito yung budget nyo. And then, continue on your wedding despite the conditions. No? So yun, they got married just recently last week. And of course, I'm
Wow.
happy to them. So shout out na lang sa kanila if ever
Congratulations.
they're
Shout
listening.
out natin. Ano
So
bang pangalan kung
yeah,
pwede?
congratulations.
Okay.
They wanted confidential, so
For sure.
we'll just keep it confidential. But the point is, um, parating may milestones along the way. So, after 3 months, ito na yung budget nila. After another 3 months, ito na yung budget nila. So, at least, palapit na palapit ka sa goal mo. Kaya, kailangan na may end ka in mind. At the same time, practical may short-term goals to reach that end. No?
Yeah.
But another point I want to share with you because of the pandemic, which is actually be flexible with your goal.
Okay.
Because by being flexible, mas madali ka mag-adjust, madali ka alam mo yun, to weather the circumstances kahit pandemic, kahit post-pandemic, at least ready ka. Well, not ready, but mostly prepared on the circumstances that will drift you away to your goal, but may lead you back to your goal. No? So those are the three things I wanted to share. So have an end in mind. Always dream you can make it, but have short-term goals. And lastly, be flexible.
I like what you mentioned about flexibility, Adriel. Kasi right now, talagang marami sa atin nagpaplano pero hindi mo maiwasan na yung plano mo nagbabago. And marirelate din natin siya pabalik dun sa short-term goals naman. Kasi di ba bago natin ma-achieve, for example, yung goals natin for 2021, magsisimula yan sa mga building blocks, no? Yung mga
Yes.
maliliit na accomplishments, which is ang motivation talaga natin is yung end in mind nga natin. Kung for example, si Adriel, nagma-master's degree siya kasi gusto niya mag-improve sa consulting business, sa craft, kung nasan siya nagtatrabaho ngayon. So, napansin ko lang, ang ganda pala pagsunod-sunod rin ng mga sinabi mo, no? From flexibility, short-term goals, and pabalik sa end in mind. Kasi nga, kailangan natin ng ng motivation. And at the same time,
Yeah.
para ma-motivate tayo, kailangan ma-appreciate din natin yung mga small
Yes.
accomplishments. So take note sa mga viewers natin, di ba? Kailangan appreciate din natin. I-tap natin yung back natin kapag may
Oo.
mga tayo, small
Yes,
accomplishments.
give a pat on your back. And of course, be thankful din sa mga tao that help you along the way. Because those things won't be possible if those people are not there. Diba?
Yeah. Isa sa mga favorite quotation ko rin yung no man is an island talaga kasi we learn from other people and of
Yes.
course lahat ng achievements natin, tama si Adriel, kailangan natin ng help ng ibang tao. So moving forward, Adriel, sa discussion natin tonight,
Ay, wait lang.
sure,
Wait, 2
sure.
minutes yung...
So moving
Sige, sige.
forward sa discussion natin, Adriel, kasi marami sa atin, 'di ba, nag-start na ng goal setting, sa life goals man yan or financial goals. So if we will relate dun sa mga tao na naapektuhan talaga yung finances nila last year kasi maraming nawalan ng trabaho, maraming nagkaroon ng cut sa salary or yung businesses naman nila may mga nagsara. So many of us right now are building our emergency funds. So if you will give some of your advice to our viewers and listeners, ano yung mga techniques na pwedeng gawin nila kasi gusto nating ma-build yung emergency fund ng bawat isa. No? So yung iba pwedeng naubos yung
Yeah.
funds nila or yung iba nabawasan.
Mm. Sige, let's go to building, no, your emergency fund. Medyo
Mm.
mahirap yan i-discuss dahil di kasi natin alam, 'di ba, kung ano yung dahilan kung bakit naubos yung emergency fund nila, no? So,
Yeah.
technically yung first step natin is for all of the viewers and listeners, no, listening right now, is to identify kung ano yung reason kung bakit kinuha natin yung pera sa emergency fund natin, no? Be it a flat tire o may nangyaring namatay, no? So kailangan nating kumuha ng pera kahit paano or nawala ng trabaho. So
Mm.
una, identify muna natin kung ano yung nangyari. Bakit? Because baka kasi traumatic yan or baka big event, no? Or malaking dahilan kung bakit nawalan ng pera. Kaya kailangan mo na ng konting reflection or
Mm.
like coming to terms with the event. Because if we cannot come to terms with the event, hindi tayo maka-move forward eh. Tapos baka mahirapan tayo to rebuild the emergency fund. There might be tendencies na mag-ano tayo, um, paano ba to? Like spending, like personal spending for yourself, like yung mga happy spending na kailangan kong itong spending ngayon dahil malungkot ako
Yes.
ngayon.
Mm.
So, coming to terms first because mahirap mag-build ng emergency fund na malungkot eh. So,
Mhm.
kailangan, hindi naman kailangan masaya, but at least getting neutral or heading towards a good or better mood will really help in rebuilding the emergency fund. No, so that's my first tip. Second tip is, of course, yung parati nating sinasabi, cash is king.
Mm.
So as much as possible, always have multiple sources of income. No, if it's not difficult, well, if it's difficult to find multiple sources of income, mas mabuti na diyan ka muna sa trabaho mo. Blessing na may trabaho ka ngayon, no?
Yes.
Para sa mga tao na nawalan ng trabaho, you can always start your own, if possible naman, no? Find your own freelancing job or maybe
Mm.
start your own business. So, pwede natin ibalik sa goal setting na baka ito yung panahon na, okay, kailangan ko i-evaluate yung gusto ko sa buhay, ano yung goals ko sa buhay,
Yeah.
gusto ko ba mag-business or do I need to spend time more with my family? Because always having that support system can always lead to something better. And of course, related yan sa building ng emergency fund. Because pwede kasi maging inspiration yung pamilya mo eh. Na, okay, kailangan ko maghanap ng trabaho ngayon. Dahil may pamilya ako.
Mm.
Tapos kailangan ko i-build yung emergency fund ko. So that's tip number 2. And maybe my last tip is don't panic. No? Nawala na yung emergency fund mo, that's fine. So
Mm.
how do we now rebuild it? So there are many ways to rebuild your emergency fund. One is, again, stop all investing and then, of course, lahat ng investment money mo, redivert lang to your savings account. Tapos once okay na siya, balik na naman, no,
Okay.
to your investment goals. Yung iba kasi nagpopon. Alam mo yun, may mga mga jewels, no, gold, diamond, nagpo-pawn tapos may pera, 'di ba? Tapos binabayad ng interest hanggang mabalik yung pawn. Well, that's an option but can be explored further. Another option is kung anong pera nila ngayon, let's say job. Pwede sila start a mini business, gumawa ng second or third cash flow. Para yung cash flow na yun yung ibibigay sa emergency fund. Tapos yung main business nila or main job, yun pupunta sa main investment goals nila. Tapos kapag okay na yung emergency fund nila, ayun, yung sources of cash, pwede nang i-divert to your investment goals. Ano lang yan, parang investment allocation or portfolio management strategy. Pero mahirap itong topic. Maraming ways, I would admit na mahirap din for me. Because when I was also rebuilding my emergency fund, kailangan nagiging matalino ako on where I get my sources of income. So I
Yeah.
did Sun Life, I did Wealth Archie, nag-YouTube pa ako. Tapos eventually nag-rebuild din yung emergency fund ko.
Yeah, grabe si Adriel guys, marami ng followers to sa YouTube. Actually, yung Wealth Arky, isa sa mga idol ko to na
uh,
YouTuber. And like what Adriel mentioned a while ago, maganda yung meron tayong multiple sources of income. Ang napansin din namin ngayon, Adriel, di ba? Maraming naging entrepreneurs sa mga kababayan natin. Actually, even worldwide, sa ibang
Hmm?
bansa rin. So marami kasi tayong mga
Yes, yes.
skills na pwede pa na natin pagkakitaan. Marami, di ba, sa atin mahilig magluto or mag-bake. Meron din naman mga may talent sa hosting. So nag-conduct ng
Mm.
mga webinars. Or yung iba naman magaling sa music, so meron silang mga online tutorial classes. So this is the opportunity talaga na mailabas natin yung mga talents or skills natin and leverage sa internet. Kasi because of our connectivity, we can reach sa iba't ibang tao, not only in our country but even in other nation. Like ngayon, si Adriel, imagine nasa Singapore siya pero nakakausap ko siya. So,
Mm.
talagang ano 'no, naging challenging for all of us, even sa akin din 'no, as we rebuild our emergency funds din this pandemic. Unti-unti siya, eh. So, ang maganda dito is lumabas yung creativity natin sa mga gagastusin natin. Ano ba yung pwede
Yes,
nating
I
i-lessen.
agree.
And like what Adriel mentioned, mahalaga yung portfolio management. Ano ba yung pwede nating i-prioritize as of this moment. Kung talagang na-deplete yung savings, baka pwedeng bawasan mo na ng konti yung investment mo, then babalik mo na lang siya afterwards. Sobrang ganda ng mga insights mo,
Yeah.
Adriel, and take note sa mga listeners natin. This will be helpful for you. And we hope na ma-discover mo rin yung another source of income na pwede mong pasukin this season. Kasi yan yung magiging ano natin eh, kumbaga pang-boost ng cash flow natin para hindi naman tayo kapos na kapos or even mag-overflow pa. Ayan, so
Yes.
dahil marami
But I
rin,
just want to add, no,
sure, sure, go ahead,
like
Adriel.
like for those na-realize ko lang actually ngayon, no. Sa mga tao na medyo nahirapan pa with their portfolio management skills, no. Maraming videos or tutorials sa YouTube or articles that can help you with that. Search nyo lang basic portfolio management, no. Tapos lalabas 'yan. Tapos sa mga tao na of course nahirapan, 'di ba? Maghanap ng secondary income stream like what you mentioned, Carlo.
Mhm.
Yung isa pang option pala instead of finding that income stream, baka pwede nilang i-leverage kung saan sila ngayon sa kumpanya. Halimbawa, junior consultant ka, no? Pwede mong kausapin yung manager mo na ano yung skills na kailangan ko para magiging analyst level na or consultant level. Yan. Dahil part yan sa career development and
Yes.
growth mo rin eh. Tapos
Yeah,
malay mo, yung mga skills na yan, yan yung paraan pala para makuha yung second income stream mo.
agree. Kasi 'di ba, sabi nga, the more we learn, the more we will earn. And at the same time, if we will communicate to our immediate heads, kung ano ba yung pwedeng direction natin sa career natin, it will also
Mm.
help us na mag-move forward. And
Yes.
ngayon, Adriel, moving forward sa discussion natin, marami
Mm-mm.
din sa ating ngayong pandemic, di ba, nagkaroon ng mga claims sa insurances or mga medical
Ay, oo.
expenses. Kasi nga, dahil
Yes.
meron tayong health crisis, so to encourage our viewers and listeners, do you think health insurance is important this pandemic season or kailangan ba i-maintain ng mga tao yung mga insurance coverage nila kahit na nahihirapan sila magbayad, for example, sa premium? What are your thoughts about it?
Again, no, regarding, this is very sensitive, no, sa mga
Sobra.
insurance agents, baka ma-stone ako or something. So, careful na lang, but I would like to speak my mind regarding health insurance right now. Regardless kung post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, or during the pandemic, importante talaga na may health insurance tayo or life insurance. Bakit? No, sabi kasi natin, ito yung safety net natin. In
Mhm.
case may mangyari sa atin, kahit pumanaw or nagkasakit, dahil yung pera na yan kasi magbabayad sa mga bills, no? So ngayon, health insurance. Kung may health insurance policy ka, tapos bigla ka lang nagkasakit, yung insurance face amount na yan, yun magbabayad sa ano mo eh, hospital bill eventually. Bakit eventually? May claims process kasi. So as much as possible, always have that safety cash net as your first buffer, which can be considered as your health insurance or yung tinatawag naming health fund. Kaya
Mhm. Yeah.
kadalasan sa clients ko, ini-encourage ko most of the time to have their own health fund. Tapos may health insurance din for at least yung first buffer, pambayad sa hospital bill. Second buffer, health insurance. At yung health insurance naman ngayon, hindi naman necessarily yung insurance policy eh. Meron
Mhm.
naman din tayong HMO, meron din
Yes.
tayong hospital stock. So maraming options na yun. Um, whether or not they should continue paying depending on their situation,
Okay.
like kung kaya nila magbayad or not. Again, kailangan ng consultation dyan. Kaya nandito kami ni Carlo to help you, no? Kung
Yes.
tama ba continue magbayad or maghanap ng ibang cheaper option pero same coverage, no? So, mga ganong bagay, I would suggest to reevaluate, no? Kung okay pa ba itong health insurance policy para sa akin. If not, ano yung alternatives natin, no? Hindi lang tayo basta-basta, "Uy, di ko na kaya, di ko na babayaran or ilalapse ko na 'to." Maling mindset 'yan.
Mhm.
Yung tamang mindset is, "Okay, hindi ko na 'to kayang bayaran. Ano yung options ko? May kumpanya ba diyan na puwedeng, um, ma-supplement itong or at least, well, bawal yung replacement but worst comes to worst, like replace itong policy na 'to, pero
Mm.
same coverage, same benefits, pero cheaper? Or should I reduce the face amount, no? Pero lower the premium din because gano'n, eh, kapag mas mababa yung face amount, mas mababa yung premium, no? Or should I depende kasi kung whole life, can I like delay 1 month, 2 months, ano, eh, like before a month, tapos bayaran ko siya like 1 day before the lapse
Yeah.
date. Or kung VUL 'to, because may health insurances na VUL, eh, puwede ko ba siyang i-delay konti, tapos let the fund value do itself. So, explore yung options muna bago tayo mag-say na cut natin or look for something else. So, yun yung payo ko for this. But the answer is yes, you need you need
Yeah,
your health
agree.
insurance. It's as important pre-pandemic and post-pandemic.
Yes, agree. Sobrang totoo yung sinabi mo, Adriel, kasi right now we need safety nets, and of course we want to protect our family members in case of uncertainties. And maganda yung sinabi mo na ano, no, we need to assess pa rin kasi walang specific approach na pwedeng maging effective sa lahat ng listeners or viewers natin kasi
Mm.
sabi nga natin, meron tayong kanya-kanyang journey pagdating sa finances natin or even sa health funds natin. So, if you need professional consultation, you can approach financial planners like us ni ADL. So, sobrang halaga talaga ng insurance, and this is one thing na kailangan pa nating mas spread sa Philippines kasi medyo mababa
Yeah.
pa rin yung insurance penetration natin. So, meron tayong another side of the boat, Adriel, eh. Kasi 'di ba marami sa atin din na yun nga
Mm.
nawalan ng work, nag-struggle yung business. Pero yung another side of the boat, there are people naman ngayon na mas lumaki yung savings kasi work from
Okay.
home, tapos wala silang ganong ginagastos ngayon. Kung dati madalas sila mag-coffee shop, ngayon dahil medyo social distancing, nabawasan yung mga pagbili sa labas ng pagkain. So I've been speaking with people din na marami silang excess funds and nagtatanong sila, ano ba yung pwede kong gawin ngayon? Kasi biglang nakaipon sila more than their emergency funds,
Mm.
meron na rin silang insurance protection and all. So for someone who wants to start investing this season, what are your tips and ano ba yung mga pwedeng parameters nila at least? Kasi syempre, pagdating sa investing, meron din tayong mga risk tolerance and other stuff na kailangan i-consider. So, what are your thoughts, bro, about investing?
Gusto ko yung tanong na yan. Dahil yan din yung parating tinatanong sa amin sa Wealth Archy. At sa akin, yung mga tao nag-reach out sa akin. No? So, but to start, this is actually similar to the other question, no, that
Mhm.
people keep asking me. How can I manage my finances during this time? Regardless kung hindi kaya yung salary or not. No? So, maybe to start, no, for those na may excess cash and wants to start to invest, hold that cash a bit. Tapos balik tayo sa simula, no? Yung ano ba talaga yung goal mo? So ano yung end goal in mind, no? Bakit? Because sa investing volatile yan eh. Emotion
Yeah.
driven minsan. So when we're investing, as much as possible, we're also managing our own emotions. And sabi sa class namin, investing is also risk management. So how
Mhm.
do we manage our risk as well when we're investing? Magba-bonds ba tayo? Mag-e-equities ba tayo? Imi-mix ba natin 'yan, yung bonds and equities? Mag minsan magko-crowdfunding ba tayo? Magre-real estate? So maraming investment vehicles yung tawag
Mm.
natin. Pero
Yeah.
yung mas malagang na tanong, ano yung investment vehicle na mapupunta tayo sa goal natin. Yan.
Yes.
No? So, sa mga viewers natin or mga listeners natin, no, lalo na sa Spotify,
Mm.
um, for those na gusto na talaga mag-invest, take a step back and evaluate ano ba yung goal mo. Like, is it buying a car? Is it getting that new house? Is it like, well, for me, similar to me, going abroad, mag-masters, no? Kahit anong goal yan, short term, long term, medium term, may specific pang matching, yung tinatawag nating principle of matching. Kailangan nating mix and match the fund and the goal. So, kailangan makatumbas sila. Bakit? Part yan sa risk management eh. Mahirap na yung goal mo is wedding per next year na. Tapos linagay mo sa sa stock market. Unless trader ka, okay lang.
Ah,
Pero if say passive investor ka, tapos first time mo, medyo mahirap yan dahil hindi kasi natin alam kung tataas ba na pataas yung market or biglang tataas tapos bababa bigla. Mamaya kasi yung wedding na yan, ano na lang, house wedding na lang. Nako, mahirap yan. Ah, so, as
yes.
much as possible, mix and match the goal and the fund or the investment para hindi tayo magiging disappointed din. No? So like, that's my first tip. Second
Mm.
tip is um, know how much you are allocating per goal. If you have multiple goals, know how much yung amounts. At the same time, how much you need to get to that goal. Kaya, di ba, diniscuss sa atin yung time value of money. Because totoo yan,
Yeah.
yung pera may time value talaga. So, yung 1 peso mo ngayon, tapos magiging 10 pesos in the future, same pa rin yan. Yung kailangan lang kasi natin gawin is, how do I reach to let's say 1M in 10
Mm.
years? So,
Yeah.
magkano yung kailangan kong i-allocate? Tapos ah, sorry, ano yung, magkano yung kailangan ko i-allocate? Tapos ano yung fund na ilalagay ko? So, always know that um, you need to like budget. So, dito ka talagang makikita yung budgeting skills mo eh. Kung, let's say, 5 yung goals mo, tapos ito lang yung pera mo. So, ano yung pa-prioritize mo? Ito ba? Goal 1 or goal 2? Or goal 3?
Yeah.
So, this is why we emphasize yung building first the emergency fund and goal setting because all of those skills will matter when you come to investing. So
Yeah.
that's like tip number 2. And then my last tip will always be don't look at the returns. Always know what you really want and know ano yung, of course, always the end goal in mind. No? Mamaya kasi yung nakikita mo, uy, maganda, Bitcoin or let's say Forex,
Okay.
10%, 12%. Pero yung pala 12% kapag ganito lang yung conditions. Tapos
Okay.
mamaya kapag bumaba, lugi ka. So baka magiging disappointed ka. So wag mong tingnan yung return. Tingnan mo kung itong fund ba to or investment, pwede ko bang pasukan. Tapos nakaintindi ba ako kung anong nangyayari dito. Minsan kasi pumapasok tayo na hindi natin inaral o hindi pa
Mm.
natin naintindihan. Pumasok na tayo eh. So baka mas tumaas pa yung risk aversion natin or yung biases na, oh, di ko na to ipo-pull out dahil nandyan na ako. So, to avoid that, always know what you're getting into. It's also part of your due diligence, yung tinatawag namin. Because of course, this is your hard-earned money. Gusto natin makamit yung goals
Yeah.
natin. 'Di ba? So, mahirap na pumasok tayo sa isang bagay na hindi na natin mabalikan or bigla lang nawala yung pera natin. So, that's my last tip. So, just be careful in what you're going into and always study the fund that you're going into.
Yeah, to add dun sa sinabi ni Adriel, kasi ngayon, marami kasing na-hype din, Adriel, di ba? Yung mga may excess funds. Siyempre, pag may nakita sila sa social media, uy, grabe, kumita siya ng gantong amount sa stock market, X amount, or sa Bitcoin, may X amount na kinita. Kasi di ba sabi ni Adriel, and ako rin, what I always share sa mga nakakausap ko rin, it's important to know the risk of a certain investment. Kasi nga, minsan, yung kwento na sinabi ni Adriel, kung ikakasal ka few months from now tapos naglagay
Mm.
ka sa equity or medyo mataas yung fluctuations, so medyo ano rin, hindi natin mamamanage yung risk kasi
Yes.
yung time na kakailanganin natin yung money is malapit na. So talagang we need to assess muna kung ano yung suitable investment for you, especially kung ano nga ba yung goal na kailangan mo ma-achieve with a certain period of time. So, maganda yung sinabi ni Adriel kasi we want to give also parameters, 'di ba, na
Mm.
bago tayo mag-invest, naintindihan din natin yung pinapasok natin para maiwasan din natin yung kumbaga hindi tayo ma-satisfy, 'di ba, sa mga returns. Pero on the positive side kasi kapag in-apply naman natin yung right matching of investments in accordance to our goals, mas ma-achieve din natin talaga yung gusto natin. So, yun naman yung goal natin for our fellow Filipinos, and even if we have listeners na ibang nationality. So, we want to maximize our investments with the time frame na sinet natin. Kasi, Adriel, ngayon din, siguro sabihin na rin natin sa mga listeners natin,
Mm.
may mga nagtitake advantage din kasi this pandemic. So, if you will not conduct due diligence, pwedeng hindi mo pala mailagay sa tama yung funds. So, yun yung pinaka iniingatan natin. Kasi hard-earned money natin yung ini-invest natin. So, yun. Thank you, Adriel, for your tips. And siguro last question ko na lang, Adriel, what are your thoughts or ideas about Bitcoin? Kasi isa nga ito sa mga maraming naha-hype, 'di ba? Maraming nakakapansin, uy, yung taas ngayon ng return sa Bitcoin. Ano yung masasabi mo sa mga viewers na kunyari gusto mag-invest sa Bitcoin pero hindi pa sila knowledgeable, or ano yung mga na-observe mo naman regarding Bitcoin recently?
Yeah. So Bitcoin is back in the spotlight after three
Oo nga.
years, no? So para sa mga listeners dyan, just a brief background on Bitcoin, no? So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. So it's a digital coin na link ka sa isang server. So it's part of blockchain technology. So wala tong peg na currency, but they're actually planning to have it pegged to a currency. They've been trying for 3 years. No? So going back to your question, what are my thoughts on Bitcoin? Yung mga recent rallies kasi brought me shades of what happened back in 2017, late
Okay.
quarter 2017 if I believe, na bigla lang tumaas, no, yung Bitcoin to
Mm.
9,000 tapos
Yeah.
bigla nag-deflate the following year. So nag-take profit ng lahat ng mga tao. Pero what's different now versus then? Before, that was based on hype. Now
Okay.
it's because of the pandemic, no. There were people looking for a safety net or a hedge, no. And actually Bitcoin is one of those hedges like gold, simply because walang tied currency or walang tied like the petrodollar, no. Yung petrodollar kasi the dollar is pegged to the oil. Pero yung Bitcoin wala siyang pegged eh. It's not pegged to gold, it's not pegged to oil. It's actually just Bitcoin. So
Mhm.
what's driving Bitcoin? It's actually the supply and demand of people buying and selling. So it's like a trader's market.
Mhm.
So yung mga nakikita natin like reaching 33,000, forecast maybe 40, but let's see like in the coming weeks or months if it will reach 40, because that's like more people are putting faith in Bitcoin as a hedge. But I would just like to like warn our listeners right now that if you don't understand Bitcoin, wag muna. No, aralin niyo muna yung blockchain at yung Bitcoin bago kayong pumasok. And personally, I don't still see Bitcoin as a long-term investment. It's still more of a trader's game
Okay.
because um, lahat ng mga tao ngayon nandun eh, and they're trading Bitcoin. So we're not sure what will happen after the pandemic if, let's say, yung 40K back to 20 or back to 15. Tapos, again, a slow climb back to 20 or 15. So careful na lang sa mga taong gustong pumasok. And make sure if you're going in, you know what Bitcoin is and you know how to trade. Yun yung two conditions before going into Bitcoin. And
Yeah,
yun yung
sure.
thoughts.
Kasi kailangan din nila maging maingat. Siyempre, ano pa din eh, maraming
And
uncertainties.
one last one last thing, no, besides yung uncertainties, be careful din sa mga scams, no.
Yeah.
Going back yung previous point na doing due diligence, no, and what you mentioned earlier na a lot of there are also people taking advantage. One of those people are
Yeah.
actually those setting up mga scam na
Mhm.
Bitcoin or blockchain
Totoo.
technologies. So again, just be careful. Mamaya kasi scam yung pinuntahan nyo. So
Mhm.
always make Google your best friend. Always like double check yung reviews, yung
Yes.
people investing in it, kung okay ba yung platform or not. Because of course, ayaw natin, 'di ba, na yung hard-earned money natin napuntahan lang sa scam or nawala lang. So, just be careful guys. Lalo na tread the waters carefully. Yan.
Yeah. Sobrang mahalaga yung sinabi ni Adriel. Kaya kailangan i-validate din natin yung organization na nag-o-offer ng investment, the people
Yes.
behind that organization. So, kung gusto natin ma-maximize talaga investment natin, the best way to do it is diversify pa rin. So like what Adriel mentioned, 'di ba? Maraming platforms, maraming options. So you need to identify kung ano ba yung suitable for you kasi hindi naman lahat pare-pareha ng type of investment na gusto or yung makakapag-achieve ng goals natin. So we
Mm.
need to study yung iba-ibang klase like yung stocks, bonds, real estate. Maybe magkakaroon tayo ng episode na magkakaroon ng focus for a particular investment. So, maybe next time siguro baka ma-invite natin ulit si Adriel pagka ng
Yes.
time. He's very
Yes.
busy but bro, sobrang meaningful ng discussion natin and I'm sure marami tayong matutulungan through your insights and of course our goal din naman is to really uplift the lives of our listeners and eventually I'm sure malalampasan din natin yung pandemic. And of course, lagi ko rin sinasabi to always stay anchored. Kaya anchored yung podcast natin. I want to encourage our listeners and viewers that of course there will be ano pa rin, divine intervention on how we can navigate this season or how we can succeed sa finances pa rin natin. So mag-ingat po tayo lagi, always be safe and prioritize your health because health is wealth. And see you again guys in our next episode. By the way, Adriel, if you have
Yes.
social media channels kung saan ka pwede kontakin ng mga viewers natin. Please feel free to invite them if they have
Oh,
questions.
yes. Of course. But before we end,
Sure.
I just would like to thank Carlo for this opportunity to like talk about personal finance again, and as well sharing my own insights to a crowd or to a listening group because this has been like what I've been missing since I've been studying here in Singapore. So thank you for that. And of course, dear listeners, you can always follow me at Facebook. You can follow my page at the Practical Peso PH. And of course, don't forget as well to subscribe and follow our YouTube channel, YT Wealth Archie. And of course, we also have a corresponding FB page as well, Wealth Archie. But for those who want to reach out to me personally, you can always find me in Facebook, Adriel Ronald Caumban. Yun.
Alright, grabe guys. Isa sa mga idol ko to na YouTuber, yung grupo nila Adriel, sila Sir Renzi, yan, Sir Fitz, and even si Marion. So, Wealth Archie guys, marami silang inspiring contents. Follow them in YouTube and of course si Adriel. So, that's it for tonight. And we hope to see you again in our next episode. Bye guys!
Bye, everyone, and have a great evening.
Alright.